Okay.
Hi guys, so we figured we'd make a video for you guys because it's been a minute. So this was a request from you guys some time ago. We finally have the time to do it. So they have no idea what the hell we're going to talk about, but I figured I'd just drop the bomb on them so that it can be more of a neutral conversation. All right, so guys, let's talk about sex.
Okay.
What? That's so random.
Well, not really. Like, we're not gonna actually talk about sex, but the question was for me is how do you talk to your children about sex? How old are you, Gordo?
11, turning 12.
And you, Julie?
About to turn 14.
Okay. So as you can see, my kids are pretty grown, right? So basically the question was, how do you talk to your kids about sex? How do you introduce that? Honestly, that's a very interesting question because unfortunately, our kids are way, it's not like it used to be. Our kids are literally way ahead of time as opposed to when I was a teenager. You know, I didn't really have parents myself that actually sat me down and talked to me about sex. I heard it in school. You know, the sex education, that's when I first initially heard about it. Besides, you know, sort of wondering, having those awkward moments when you'd hear your parents having sex in the room and you're like, what the hell's going on? So besides that, yeah, I had those moments. I had those moments, unfortunately. So, you know, I had somewhat the same scenario with me, with my kids, as far as I didn't get the opportunity to actually talk to my kids about sex because they were sort of introduced to it at school, unfortunately, from kids whom obviously were more advanced than my kids were. So the first time that I found out that my daughter knew anything about it was the most awkward conversation ever.
I told you?
Yeah, about the vibrator.
That was 5th grade.
Oh.
So it was in 5th grade. My daughter comes home to me, and we have a very open communication. At least I would think so. But unfortunately, that day she came home to me, and I'm a true believer that you shouldn't really, you know, kids shouldn't have to worry about shit like that. You know, kids should be kids and obviously enjoy their life and not worry about things like that. But unfortunately, when my daughter got home one day in 5th grade, she was acting very awkward, and she asked me, her first question to me was, "What's a vibrator?" Of course, as a mom, you know, I've never talked to my daughter about that because I didn't feel obviously she needed to know that in 5th grade. But come to find out, there was a kid in her class or something like that was sort of bullying her and calling her a rookie. I was like, what? He was literally calling her a rookie because she didn't know what a vibrator was. And since my daughter was used to us having open communication, she sort of felt like, you know, she gave me that Mom, why didn't you tell me what this was so I don't look stupid? You know, she didn't say that, but that's the way I took it. So I was like, oh God. So I had to basically tell her, you know, okay, a vibrator's a toy that grown-ass women use, you know, once they're sexually active, you know, as a source, you know, as a form of pleasure. But of course, to her, in 5th grade, that still wasn't really registering. But I tried to at least tell her what it was, you know.
I don't even remember this.
Oh, I do. And Golo, how did you find out first, about sex? Because I know it wasn't through me initially.
School, for sure. School. It's all school.
Hold on, can I interrupt you for a second? I feel like as soon as you hit 3rd grade, that's when not necessarily straight on to sex and stuff, but more kissing and boyfriends and crushes and all that stuff. And parents don't really realize it, but we start learning that stuff at a really young age. I don't know how these other kids know that stuff to begin with, but it just kind of like their knowledge spreads to you, I guess. But yeah, they're not
Third
shy.
grade though?
Third grade.
That's crazy.
It doesn't really get intense till like 5th grade.
Oh, and also
Definitely answer this
it's
question.
very important. Like besides the point of obviously, you know, your kids being introduced to sex at a very early age. I didn't know that they knew as much as they did. I guess starting at the age of 3rd grade. You know, I know that kids don't really feel comfortable speaking to their parents about that. But I do remember when my daughter was like in the 2nd grade that she came home. Again, open communication. She came home to me one day and told me how a little boy was trying to touch her friend under the table in her private part. And, you know, when she told me that, of course, I felt terrible because, you know, it's like a little girl, especially in 2nd grade, shouldn't be being touched by a little boy, you know, and it's so important for me to throw that out there because I know a lot of people that have children, so it's always been so important to me to talk to my kids, like educating them on the no touch zones, whether it's a family member, a friend, or a freaking stranger. Don't allow anybody to touch your private areas, you know, and I've always said that to my kids.
Oh, another thing is that you should make sure to like not constantly where it gets annoying or like invading their privacy, but like every once in a while you should ask them like what's going on, if anything has happened to them or anyone has made them uncomfortable, because a lot of girls or even guys, they're not really, if something were to happen to them, they're not normally comfortable enough to go ahead and tell you for most parents. But yeah, you should ask them, and if they say nothing, just make sure that they're comfortable talking to you about stuff like that.
Okay. And I'm now going to answer the question that was asked 2 sentences ago, paragraphs ago. I found out mainly when I was in 3rd grade, and if you guys know what extended day is, it's like all mixed grades, and they would keep us in the cafeteria.
After school program. Mm-hmm.
And when I was in extended day, this is when I actually started finding more out, and it was confusing, but disgusting at the same time to me. Then the other part, this is when I officially got the talk, which was in 4th grade. I did not like the talk. But when
The talk from whom? From school or me?
You in the car, away from school. There was this kid I kept getting mad at because he kept moaning, making noises, talking about inappropriate stuff, and then just like going like that, and then making noises. Like I just didn't like it. It was immature, and I couldn't handle it. So I ended up getting in trouble because I wanted the kid to stop, and I told him to shut up. I ended up getting in trouble, and I explained to my mom what happened after the extended day, and that's when I got the talk in the car. That was not a very amazing talk. So this is how it works. From 3rd grade, that's when kids start mainly start getting kisses and like girlfriends. 4th grade is when you start really not like finding things out, and then 5th grade is then actually when kids that know stuff tend to interpret it in a different way and do bad things about sex inappropriately that they shouldn't actually be doing.
Another thing is, like, not really necessarily with sex, but once like kids start reaching the age of, not age, but 5th grade, that's when like everyone starts getting their opinion and this image on what they are supposed to be or supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And it can be hard on your kids. So like just the thought that you're supposed to look like this ideal image, and like, yeah, you have to make sure that they're aware that they need to love themselves how they are, and that most of the images online and that ideal image is, it's most of the time it's not even real. And they need to understand that everyone is unique, everyone is different, no one looks the same. People are always going to try to look a certain way, but you need to let your kids know that they are perfect the way that they are, and that they don't need to try to be anyone else or look like anyone else.
And there's another thing that I wanted to mention to make sure is that kids, they think they're slick, but they're not only slick, but they like to find things out. They're curious. And if they don't want to get it from you, they'll go asking other kids or looking things up that really isn't what they're supposed to actually be seeing. And what are you looking at me for? I know kids at school that their parents haven't given them the talk, so they started going on bad websites and started looking up inappropriate videos on YouTube to find out what that was.
It's better.
And now those kids are the kids that are the ones making noises, misbehaving, talking about that inappropriately, looking at disrespecting females inappropriately, looking at their body, touching them without their permission, like completely inappropriately, which shouldn't be going on.
But I think it's better, like, you might think that you're saving them from this knowledge, or maybe like protecting them, but they're gonna find out eventually, whether it's from you, the internet, their friends, just random kids. So I think it's better for it to come from you, and you to tell them properly what sex is, what girlfriends, boyfriends, all that stuff, because once they know what it is, they're not really gonna go venturing out of their way to look it up or ask other kids. Yeah, because like you hear everyone talking about it in school, so you're gonna want to know what it is. So, like, yeah.
Did you guys feel some kind of way when I hadn't shared, the sex talk with you guys?
No, I wasn't mad because I didn't enjoy the sex talk. I wasn't mad because the kids that in my grade that had got the sex talk were like, stay away from it. Don't even mention it in front of your parents. Because like nobody really likes that.
You're not supposed to know.
Yeah, and nobody wants like to have that weird, awkward conversation while their parents. But it's not about if you want to. It's about that you need to know you need to tell your kids the proper way before they find out the other way. As she was saying.
Well, unfortunately, it's based off of your environment. You know what I mean? Because if kids didn't know, and if it was actually up to parents, we wouldn't tell you about any of that stuff or worry about having that conversation with you guys until we felt that you were getting to that level or that maturity to actually have that talk. You know what I'm saying? Like, it shouldn't be that way where we have to talk to you guys about sex at the freaking third grade, second grade, because you guys don't really have to be sexually active till you're adults. So it sucks to even have to talk about it, but I get what you guys gotta go through.
Yeah.
What ways do you guys feel that, I guess once I've talked to you guys about it, what ways do you guys feel like it's helped you or maybe helped you understand?
Well, I feel like it makes it, like, I don't know how to explain it, but like whenever you hear other people talking about it, it's not really as weird or like confusing, because you actually know what they're talking about, and like not just curious, 'cause curiosity killed the cat. But I think it makes it a lot easier, and it doesn't make it as awkward when you go to ask your friend what it is, or like if they bring something up and you don't know. it's kind of a weird conversation to have with your friend. So yeah.
For me, I'm grateful that my mom gave me that conversation because even though like it was very quiet and awkward, she was the only one talking. I feel that if she hadn't been the one that told me, some other kid, some other person would have told me, and I would have projected a completely different image on it. Because she gave me the proper explanation that I should wait till marriage and all of that,
which is an option.
Yeah, that's an option. But some people believe that it's okay to go to high school and just completely let go and do whatever they want, misbehave.
The thing is that a lot of kids like that do that at an early age is because they're curious and they don't know yet, or they haven't been taught about it, and they don't know the risk of like getting pregnant or getting someone pregnant. So that's what happens a lot of the times when a girl or a guy don't know, or they're not educated. They want to experiment and try it out for themselves because they're not aware, or they weren't taught about it.
Well, not even. I mean, a lot of kids know about it. They just get curious, and it becomes like a popularity thing. Like, oh wow, yeah, I had sex already, you know. But at that point, that's why a lot of people don't learn the meaning between sharing that with a specific partner. It becomes more about a pleasure thing than building a bond. You know what I mean? People. So one thing that I stress to my kids, of course, is respecting their body, treating the body like a temple. You know what I mean? Not everybody should have access to it. So, of course, with both of them, and I imply the same type of method to both of them, I do tell them, of course, you should wait till marriage. But the reason why I say that is not because of an old school mentality, but more because even at this age, I educate my kids on having a proper relationship, a healthy relationship at that, and how to create and build a relationship that, can last a very long time. It's not just about, oh, let's be best friends, let's mess around, and then next thing you know, you have a heart broken, I'm very blunt with them. And that's why I also tell them the truth, like with my daughter, I'm like, boys don't know what the fuck love is. To them, every girl is just a piece of meat. They're only going to try to get in your pants because at the end of the day, men, grown-ass men, are not going to have a basic understanding as to what it is to be loyal to a woman and treat a woman right until he himself has reached that maturity level to have his shit together and to be able to offer, that longevity between a relationship. So I try to teach them from right and wrong, and tell them the hardcore truths about how relationships are with both men and women. So. Oh shit. All right, guys. So that's a wrap. That's definitely a lot longer than we expected. Hope that helps in some kind of way. I guess this was more our experience than anything. But yeah, just be very blunt and honest with your kids. And it's never too early to start introducing them to the sex game. Because obviously, if they don't hear it from you, they'll hear it from someone else. Bye, guys.